During this global quarantine, the church's temples have been closed or limited. And like many of you, I have felt the loss in not being able to attend the house of the Lord regularly. But this is also a time when I believe that we can learn to better appreciate the value of temples and temple blessings in our lives if we will take a little time to study the history of the early saints and learn the sacrifices and the efforts that they made. I'm a historian and author of the book 40 Years, which recounts the drama and the miracles involved in the building of the Salt Lake Temple in the early years of the church. And I want to share with you today 3 spiritual lessons that I learned from studying the construction of that house of the Lord. I'm Mark Henshaw, and this is my 5-minute Fireside. For the last 20 years, I've lived within about an hour's drive of the Washington, D.C. temple. I was a temple worker there for a while, and I tried to attend as often as I could, but I was usually deterred pretty easily by a busy schedule or by bad traffic. And if you've ever driven through Washington, D.C. Beltway traffic, you know what I'm talking about. But then in March 2018, the D.C. temple was closed for a multi-year renovation, and my ward was reassigned to attend the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania temple. That temple's a 3-hour drive from us with all of the bad D.C. traffic still between us and the building. And as I started thinking about how much harder it was going to be to attend the temple, I got to thinking about the early saints and what they had to go through to attend a temple. So as I was thinking about my 3-hour drive, I realized that Joseph Smith and Brigham Young wouldn't have been sympathetic to complaints about having to sit in a comfortable car for a few hours in bad traffic to attend a temple. Now, the Lord could have used his power to have made it a lot easier for the saints to build those buildings early on. He could have taken a lot of the obstacles and challenges away, but he didn't do that. He let the saints suffer through to build those temples. And as I was pondering why that was, why he didn't use that power, I think I learned 3 really important lessons that I would like to share with you now. The first lesson that I learned came from the foundation of the temple. After about 7 years of hard work on the temple, the saints found something really disturbing. They found that the foundation of the temple had been badly laid. There were holes in the foundation big enough for men to put their hands through. And this uneven foundation was causing the weight of the walls to put so much stress on the foundation that the stones were actually cracking. The only solution to fixing this problem was to take out the walls that they had already laid, to take out the defective parts of the foundation, and relay the foundation. That was going to involve undoing almost 7 years of very hard work. And that was a really bitter pill for them to swallow. But there was no other solution for it. So they went in, they pulled down the walls, they lifted out those stones, they repaired the foundation, and it took several years to do it. But when they were done, they had a foundation that they knew was strong and solid and would be able to bear up under any amount of weight that they would put on it in future years. If we liken that to ourselves, we might ask ourselves, how strong is our foundation of faith? There are times where we may think that our foundation is really solid and doesn't need work, and that we are ready for more growth and to take on more lessons and more responsibility. But the Lord may look at us and he may realize that before we can do that, that there are some weak points that need to be addressed. And so he at times may feel it necessary to go and to start repairing and reworking our foundation of faith, even when we don't realize why he's doing that. And that can be kind of painful. And it can take some time. But as the Lord makes weak things become strong, he's preparing us for the future to handle more growth and to handle more lessons that are to come. But it may just be that a period before building us up might involve the Lord having to pull us down a little bit and go over some parts of ourselves that we otherwise think are fine. The second lesson that I want to share with you comes from the arrival of the railroad in Utah. For about the first 15 years after the saints were working on the temple, anyone walking by the temple block would not have been able to see any progress at all. That's because all the work was going on below ground level. It took a really long time for them to get stone from the quarry. It takes a long time to cut stone by hand and then to move it using oxen and wagon. It was a 4-day trip. But then, after 15 years or so, the railroad arrived. And a lot of the saints left work on the temple to go and build the railroad. And once that came in and they were able to run a spur down to the temple quarry, then instead of only moving one block every 4 days or so, they were able to move multiple blocks at a time. There are times in our lives when our spiritual growth can feel like it's really slow. Even when we're doing everything right, saying our prayers, studying our scriptures, fulfilling our callings, going to our meetings. But what we have to remember is that obedience always brings progress. But what the Lord may be doing with us at a time, instead of helping us to grow, is He may be having us build our own personal railroad so that the future growth can come faster. Our spiritual railroad might come in the form of learning better how to study the scriptures, how to better receive revelation and listen to the Spirit, how to hear Him as President Nelson has recently counseled. And as we learn how to do those things, and we learn how to receive revelation and how to receive the impressions of the Spirit more clearly, then we find that our spiritual growth finally can take off, and it can happen at a pace that we will be much happier with and that we will feel that it is happening. The last lesson comes from the final cost of the Salt Lake Temple. The saints worked on that temple for 40 years before it was done, and the cost to the saints was very high. And I'm not just talking about the money. There were saints who had essentially spent their whole lives working on that temple. Many of them didn't live to see the finished temple. There were men who died on the job. Others had suffered accidents and all kinds of other problems. We might ask ourselves, why did the Lord allow the cost of that building to be so high? And the answer simply is, where much is given, much is required. When the Lord asks an extraordinary effort of us, individually or as a people, it's because He has extraordinary blessings that He's ready to give us. But I think that He wants us to understand the value of those blessings in our lives. And sometimes in order to understand those blessings, they have to be a little hard-earned. I learned that lesson in a very personal way in 2012. I had the opportunity to go through the temple with my father for what turned out to be the last time before he died. And after he passed away, I wanted nothing more than to just be able to talk to him one more time, to be able to give him one more hug, but of course that wasn't possible. But as I thought back to that last time that he and I had been in the temple together, I realized he had been living worthy to be in the temple. He had lived up to the covenants. He'd kept the covenants and promises he'd made there. He'd lived worthy of the knowledge that he received there. So I had no doubts about where he was. I had no doubts that if I would do the same, that we would be together as a family in the eternities. And I realized that you cannot put a price on that kind of blessing, on that kind of knowledge. It is the peace which passeth all understanding. There is really no understanding of the infinite worth and the infinite value of the blessings we receive in the temple. During this quarantine, the temples have been closed. And so once the temples open again and we are able to go through them and able to feel that Spirit again, I believe that if we will have taken the time to learn the history of what those early saints went through, to make sure that they were able to attend temples in their lives and to gain access to those blessings, then as we go through the doors of the house of the Lord again, we will be able to better appreciate the value of those blessings for us, and we will be able to look at those buildings again as if it were for the first time with new eyes. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark Henshaw. This has been my 5-Minute Fireside.